Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, yeah, thank you, judges, sponsors, alumni, fellow honorees for being here, and for those of you that are putting this event on. We're Cyle and Erica Stewart. Along with our daughters, we own and operate Pine Ranch Limited in Morris, Saskatchewan. Our vision is to ranch in sync with nature, which allows for a simplistic management system that minimizes our dependency on external resources and allows for opportunities to be together as a family on and off the ranch, all the while prioritizing stewardship, stockmanship, husbandry, and continuous education. We have a commercial cow, calf, and yearling operation. Our main enterprise is cows calving in the spring. We sell those steer calves direct to a feedlot in the fall. And this has been really beneficial to our operation to learn important information about our animals' health and performance. And our heifer calves, we keep them, feed them all winter. And then in the spring, choose the best females to breed and put back in our herd. And the rest go into our grass yearling program where we graze them until the next August when they weigh about 750 to 800 pounds. We also sell some beef direct to consumers through two small local grocery stores.
So this is an aerial image of our ranch. It's mostly native rangeland. We operate on 5,400 acres, and a unique aspect of our ranch is that it is all in a continuous block. We manage our land and cattle with just our family, which is Erica and I, along with our daughters and Erica's parents, who we are working through succession with. So we have tried having employees in the past, but have found a solution that works better for us. We rely heavily on well-trained dogs and horses. This enables us to move cattle from pasture to pasture with one or four of us. Part of the reason this is possible is because of the money we have invested in the well-bred pups and the time that we have invested into training them. One well-trained dog can replace three people on horses, and having the dogs also makes it easier for us to bring our daughters along to help move cows. And involving our girls for this builds their confidence and knowledge of stockmanship. It's really important for us to keep the traditional cowboy culture alive. There's a lot of knowledge from that we don't want to lose. We try and meld the traditional ways with our new management practices. We expect our horses and dogs to be able to work with us at home to get a job done, but then be able to go to town and compete. Eric and I both compete in the Canadian Ranch Roping Association sanctioned events, and there we have learned many different techniques that we use to doctor animals at home in the pasture. I've entered some trial competitions with my one dog and have had the opportunity to learn from some exceptional dog handlers. Striving to improve our stockmanship is another area we put a lot of focus into. We are fortunate to have some great mentors who are always willing to pass on their knowledge. We realize the importance in handling our cattle in a low stress manner. As often as we are moving them to different paddocks or pastures, it pays to be mindful in how we do so. As cattle with low stress levels gain more pounds, stay healthier, are easier to handle the next time, and safer for the kids to be around.
We have a bit of a unique story, though. I grew up on my family's ranch in Merritt, BC, and Kyle and I were married there. We welcomed our first daughter there. Our ranch was in the mountains, and our cows spent the summer grazing on the range, which started from our home ranch, and we went 80 miles to the south. So it would take all summer of us moving cattle on different areas of the 100,000 acre Crown Range land to different areas to graze. And then in the fall, we'd gather them up and trail them the 80 miles back home. So in some places, the bush was so thick, you'd actually have to like get off your horse and go through walk in the trees to get cows out. So a little different than where we are now. And we had a river running right through our ranch and our range, so water was never an issue for us. But despite being where I grew up, in 2017, we made the difficult decision to sell our ranch in BC and move our entire ranching operation, including the cows, to Morse, Saskatchewan.
We moved 8 semi-loads of cattle and 5 semi-flat deck loads of equipment and belongings. So in BC, we calved in February, and this ensured that the calves were old enough to make the miles or to make the miles on the range and handle the topography all by May. So this presented a problem when we were moving, as we had to move in April, so we were moving cows and calves. When we took the possession, when we took possession of the Saskatchewan ranch, I went there to receive cattle, and Erica and her dad Bill stayed home to load trucks. We worked closely with our vet and nutritionist to develop a protocol of moving young animals that distance. So the loaded truck would leave the BC ranch at 9 in the morning and arrive in Saskatchewan for me to unload between 2 and 3 the following morning. Though the land we bought was not a functional ranch, we had to put a lot of fence and infrastructure up that first year. So that first summer, we had a horse barn, calving barn, and shop built. We put up 6 kilometers of fence, trenched hundreds of feet of deep water line for winter water troughs, and since we moved, we built 12 clicks of permanent four-strand barbed wire fence.
We were very excited about this move and thought ranching in Saskatchewan was going to be a lot easier than where we had come from in BC. But turns out we were very naive in our thinking, and we can admit that now. And every place has their challenges. So while there are a lot of positives from the move, it's not been easy. Our biggest struggle, as you can see on the map there, has been the drought. And so in the summer of 2017, when we moved, the Morris area was coming off wet years, and we're measuring rainfall by the foot. And when we came, it pretty much stopped raining, and it hasn't rained since. So in the summer of 2023, we got 2.5 inches of rain all summer. So this has been extremely impactful on our operation. And we've had to sell over 100 mother cows, which obviously has negatively affected our business, but we just didn't have the grass to support them. So to say it's been a struggle would be an understatement, but instead of trying to do things the same way and continue to struggle, we looked at our practices and tried to find ways where we could improve and adapt. So this picture is from when we moved in 2017, and on the other side is from this past summer. So that slough's was completely dry this year and has been for several years now. The silver lining, though, of the drought is it really forced us to look at our grazing management practices, and we saw that as a big area that we could improve upon. So we've been doing a lot of learning about soil health, grazing practices, and how they're really interconnected. And so because our ranch is mostly native grasslands, we have minimal acres that have been seeded to perennial forages. So we saw this as an opportunity. If we could maximize our grazing capacity on those tame perennial forage fields, that would delay our grazing start date on native grass. And this is important because it said every day you delay turnout onto native grass in the spring, you gain 2 days of grazing in the fall. So we took a 480-acre perennial grass field and split it up into 40 paddocks to get high animal impact, long rest periods on the grass. This is also a benefit for soil health because the stockpiled grass from extended rest periods can help cover the soil, provide organic matter, and also creates habitat for other species.
We've also developed a lot of water infrastructure to ensure water for cattle. We've drilled 4 wells and completed many projects, with the most recent being 5 kilometers of shallow pipeline to get water to different fields. These infrastructure projects have given us increased options in grazing flexibility. We've put in a solar winter water trough and have purchased solar pumps so we can pump water from dugouts into troughs in the summer fields, which protects riparian areas and also provides animals with clean drinking water, which research shows um, improves health and weight gains. This fall, we purchased these portable troughs that will hook into our new shallow pipeline system, and they have a 3,000-gallon storage capacity and will further increase our grazing flexibility. Another practice that we started implementing was bale grazing. We set up 90 days worth of winter feed per feeding group on our perennial forage fields, and we'll move electric fence every 5 days to give cattle access to the next row of bales. So the benefits of bale grazing are to add organic matter to build and cover the soil, and as well as decreased fuel consumption and hours accumulated on a tractor. And by purchasing all of our hay, we are bringing nutrients onto the ranch. So when we receive those bales, they get taken off the semi and put right in a field where they'll be grazed. So we only have to handle the bales once.
Like mentioned, our ranch is mostly native rangeland, and we're proud to manage that land knowing that it's one of the fastest disappearing ecosystems, and keeping cattle on that land is a way to save it. It comes with its own challenges, though, and requires unique management. So we try to postpone turning cows out onto that native grassland for as late as possible. So the earliest we like to start grazing is July 1st, as that gives those native plants time to build healthy root systems and properly establish. This land has never been broken, so it's the same plant species growing as when the bison roamed it. So we're essentially trying to emulate that grazing pattern, but using cattle instead. And we've also signed conservation easements with Ducks Unlimited Canada and Saskatchewan Stock Growers Foundation to preserve this native grassland. We also volunteered our ranch to participate in Living Labs project. So Living Labs is a collaboration between researchers and ranchers in a coordinated effort to bridge the gap between theory and research. We are putting scientific theories to test in real world situations and sometimes adverse conditions like drought. So one of the projects we're involved in is the multi-taxa project, where scientists come onto our ranch to measure diversity. So how many mammals, insects, and bird species also live on our ranch. And we had a report from Birds Canada that found 47 different bird species and 4 of which are species at risk. So we're really proud to know that we have burrowing owl and Sprague's pipit that also call our ranch home. We're also involved in some polycrop project studies as well. Another important aspect of our ranch is giving back and being involved. So we are both involved in many different organizations. I was involved in the Canadian Cattle Young Leaders Program as a mentee when the program was just beginning and had such a positive experience and learned so much about the policy side of the industry. And it really shaped my involvement and knowledge in the beef industry. Um, and I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. And this fall, I was asked to be involved in the program again, but this time as a mentor. So I'm very excited and honored to give back to that program. Kyle and I were also asked to be mentors in the Beef Cattle Research Council research mentorship program. So that's where researchers are paired up with producers. So the industry needs researchers to ensure it's progressive, but in lots of cases, these researchers don't have practical experience, and this program provides it. So we were paired up with a researcher who has his postdoc and from Toronto and didn't have industry experience. So now he's actually been to our ranch a few times and even moved cows on horseback with us.
One of the organizations I'm involved in is the Sask Matters Mental Health Network, where in 2021 I became a founding board member. My drive to be involved in this organization stems from seeing close friends and family affected by their mental health. Sask Matters provides agriculture producers with 6 free counseling sessions, which are funded by donations. This spring, our board had the opportunity to meet with Her Excellency, the Governor General of Canada, and we discussed the struggles that egg producers face. I was then invited to participate in a roundtable meeting with Her Excellency, where we discussed how to drive innovation in mental health services across Canada, which took place last week in Winnipeg. Last winter, I also gave a keynote speech on mental health and agriculture at the Peace Region Living Labs conference, and have been asked to speak at the Holistic Management Canada conference this winter.
I'm I'm very passionate about connecting people to their food and how their food is being raised. We open up our ranch and host tours. We've hosted Food Farm, where grades 3 and 4 students come and learn. We've hosted Egg in the Classroom teacher tours, which I think is really valuable to educate teachers because the amount of students they can then impact. I also work with Farm and Food Care Saskatchewan and make videos of ranch life and have a video series called A Day in the Life at Pine Ranch. And these are shared on the Canadian Food Focus YouTube channel. Continuous education is another key component to our ranch. I completed the Ranching for Profit school last winter, and that was hugely beneficial. So Colin and I now have goals to decrease our overheads and to make time to work on the business, not just working in the business.
This summer, Eric and I went to a grazing workshop in Montana, and the instructor of this workshop was Alejandro Carrero. He ranches in the Mexican desert, and over the years has transformed his ranch from each cow requiring 200 acres per year to graze to 40 acres per year to graze, all by grazing management. So going forward, every year we want to expand our pipeline system and eventually have well water in every 160 acres or a quarter section to maximize our grazing options.
Our goal is to become more effective grazing managers, to increase our dollars per acre, our carrying capacity, to rebuild our herd, and have a larger grass yearling enterprise, as well as have the option to graze other species like sheep. Part of our why is witnessing our daughter's skills and curiosity grow from working alongside us. We hope that one day we can do these infrastructure improvements to pass down a sustainable and productive ranch to them if that is their passion.
In closing, we are forever grateful Erica's parents invested the time and knowledge into the next generation, and we feel a great honor in continuing that legacy. Thank you for letting us share our story with you.
You guys. Excellent presentation, Eric and Kyle. There is time for questions, of course, so please approach the mics and ask questions.
Hi guys, great presentation. You spoke a lot about all of the work you're doing to improve your grass and your soil, and of course, weathering the drought we've been in Saskatchewan. Consumers are more and more interested about where their food is coming from. They want to make sure it's environmentally sustainably produced. I'm just wondering if you could speak to how you ensure that when you're communicating with your customers and how you're proving that the system that you're using is sustainable.
Great question. Yeah, that's another thing that I'm really passionate about. So in Canada, we have a program called the Verified Beef Program that measures on-farm sustainability standards. And I'm the coordinator for Saskatchewan for that program. So I help producers, it's a voluntary program, but I help producers prepare for that certification process if that's what they're interested in. And then we are also certified ourselves. And I do think programs like Verified Beef and the Canadian Roundtable for Sustainable Beef really help paint the picture and share our story of what we're doing on farm to consumers.
Laura Liebes-Witherick from Manitoba. So your cross fencing, we're just wondering, is it electric or is it the barbed wire? How big are your paddocks? Do you use a like a once graze over system? I think that was the list of questions that we had. And I can attest to a good cattle dog. That was the best wedding present we ever had.
I'm gonna try and remember your questions. So we have a lot of barbed wire fence, and so our smallest fields in barbed wire would be half sections. And then of that, we would cut those up in a 12 acre, 5 acre, depending on where our water is, only on our perennial fields. So our native grass, we're only down quarters or 160 acres, and we're splitting those up with single strand temporary barbed wire, or sorry, temporary, um, yeah, hot wire, one strand aluminum. Right. And then, so this summer, another clinic I went to was Bob Kinford's migratory grazing workshop. And that's been really interesting. So with that process, you reboot your cattle into grazing like sheep. So all in a flock or herd. And to see that happen naturally, like I wouldn't have believed it unless I saw it and we worked with these animals. But it was a 5 day clinic and we started with green animals. And in the first day they were in a 2 section field and they were in 3 different groups. There's 100 heifers, and we worked with them a certain way to reboot those instincts. The next day they were in 2 groups on a 2 section field. Same thing, worked with them all day. Third day they were in one group and they would stay in one group all day long. And we followed them around all day, and it was amazing how that reset. So there are other ways to do it without the infrastructure of fences, which we've started to look into, just for the labor intensity and materials. Was there more questions?
I think that was it. Yeah. And the grazing, just monitoring the grass individually.
Oh yes, our rest periods. We're once a year and then we're done. So we're aiming for like a 360 to 380 day rest period.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Cal, you spoke to your experiences in supporting mental health initiatives for producers. I'm just wondering what the largest impact of that has been on you and all of the experiences you've had with this.
It's been really interesting. Everyone has a story, and maybe it's because I make myself open to it. But the people who have expressed their stories and their concerns or their struggles has been the most unsuspecting people that you would imagine. And it's reassuring to know we all have struggles, no matter how big and tough we look. Everyone is dealing with something, and I think the more we can talk about it, we can remove that stigma, and we'll all be better off for it.
I love your family farm story, family ranching story. I got two kind of questions for you. My brother-in-law told me some stuff, but taking cattle out of the mountains to native grassland, that wasn't as easy as you figured, I'm thinking. And when you graze the grass down, like I used to have cattle on community pastures, and the argument always is how hard to be in the grass. are you saying that you graze it hard and get away from it for a longer period, or how hard do you graze it?
So we have two separate management approaches, I guess, for our like perennial tame grass or perennial forage grass. That one we do graze pretty hard. That's high impact for short periods and long rest. But our native grass, we're a little bit more cautious. It's pretty fragile land. Like we've got a lot of sandy land, so we haven't put high impact on that. So it is still long rest, but it's not high impact, like Kyle said. Our smallest field is a quarter on our native grass. So yeah, and that's why we were interested in this migratory grazing, to see if we could get higher impact without the infrastructure as well.
in your cows.
Oh, yeah, sorry. And then the question about moving cows from BC to Saskatchewan. Yes, again, we were very naive in our thinking, but we thought because we were taking like rugged, tough mountain cows to Saskatchewan, it would be a breeze. But yeah, the change, like the different types of grass is really different. The weather's very different. So it was a lot different than we expected.
Yeah, my brother-in-law said he would have been way better off selling the damn cows and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
buying Saskatchewan cows.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. It is kind of neat though. Like we've got one old cow that's, been with us through everything, right? Was been in the mountains and now has survived the drought in Saskatchewan. So yeah, we probably would have been, but it is pretty neat to see some of those genetics stay with us and continue to flourish.
Erica, Kyle, great. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thanks, you guys.